It lasted for probably 2 months, maybe even less. Basically, I cut out meat and said, right, okay, same as you, I'm not going to eat meat again. It didn't work. I missed meat. I didn't really see the point of it. I wasn't committed to any particular cause. I didn't get any kind of morals behind it at the time. And so it did not work at all. Yeah, that was a big fail.
Hey and welcome to Vegetarian Health and Longevity, the podcast where we cover the topics which will help you live longer in better health. I'm your host, James LeBague, and I work as a registered sport and exercise nutritionist and advanced clinical practitioner in family medicine. In today's episode, I sit down with Dave Bell, one of the co-founders of Hurry the Food Up, and talk to him about his journey into vegetarianism, practical tips for beginners transitioning to a vegetarian diet, as well as some of the misconceptions surrounding the health benefits of it. He's got some incredibly insightful perspectives on vegetarianism, as well as practical experience having lost weight and gained muscle after cutting out meat. Dave, welcome to the Vegetarian Health and Longevity podcast. Some of our listeners may know you already, and so you won't need an introduction. But for any of our new audience or those who aren't that familiar with Hurry the Food Up, they might not be aware of you or what you do. So I'd love to start with you just giving a bit of background about yourself and who you are.
All right. Well, hello, James, and thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm actually very excited to be here. So, yeah, I am Dave, as you mentioned, and I am one of the co-founders and owners of hurrythefoodup.com, along with Hauke and you yourself, James. And we are a relatively well-sized, I would say, vegetarian website with a focus on healthy eating and longevity. We started the website a full 10 years ago now. We are already 10 years old. Originally to help people make very quick vegetarian recipes, but we kind of expanded and changed a little bit over the time to focus on health first, really. We found, not just through our own experiences, but certainly including those, if you don't get the vegetarian diet right, it can be less than healthy. So we wanted to help the mass amount of people who were transitioning over to at least try a vegetarian lifestyle to do it well. And so, that's now the main focus of Hurry the Food Up, along with how to create healthy habits, especially around food. The idea behind this is that I really love life and I want to live it for as long as possible and in as good health as possible. So I've made it my mission over the last few years to work out how to do this, to stack the odds in my favor, and to pass on this knowledge to our readers and now listeners as well.
Fab. So, I mean, that's an awesome backstory, and I would like to just delve into it a little bit more, if I could. So, you're a vegetarian?
Yeah, I've been vegetarian for 10 years now. We started the website around the same time that I turned vegetarian, almost to the day, perhaps.
Okay. And when you actually tried going vegetarian or transitioned to this vegetarian diet, what was your primary motivation for it?
Well, the very first time I tried to go vegetarian was back when I was just a young lad. I was about 18, and I was trying to impress a new girlfriend at the time. It lasted for probably 2 months, maybe even less. Basically, I cut out meat and said, right, okay, same as you, I'm not going to eat meat again. It didn't work. I missed meat. I didn't really see the point of it. I wasn't committed to any particular cause. I didn't get any kind of morals behind it at the time. And so it did not work at all. That was a big fail.
Okay. Yeah. And so did you have a period there where you went back to eating meat and not following a vegetarian diet?
I would say probably close to another 10 years, actually. I carried on eating meat like usual. However, there were some kind of thoughts and maybe even images planted in my mind from various things that I read and seen, where I had an inkling that eating meat wasn't quite right. It didn't sit that well with me. And something was already working behind the scenes. Everything then changed one day. I was in a supermarket here in Germany, in Hamburg, and I was looking for a chicken for a roast dinner. And I came across a chicken in the deep freeze section, and it cost €2.49. I grabbed it out and thought, well, that's a bargain, €2.49 for a whole chicken. And on the bus home, I was sitting there thinking, €2.49 for an entire chicken. And my mind started to work its way backwards through the kind of the chain, from the seller, from the delivery company to the producer of the meat in the first place, and how each of these different companies were looking to make a profit along the way. Of course, they were. Then I started to think about the most terrible conditions that this chicken must have lived in for each of these 3 or 4 or 5 companies to have made a profit along the way, and how they must be doing this on such a scale. It was almost unimaginable. And it really got me thinking. And then I did actually eat that chicken and felt kind of bad and weird about it. And within a few days or a couple of weeks from then, I'd cut out all forms of meat. I didn't eat chicken again. I didn't eat lamb or anything. I didn't eat much lamb anyway, but the occasional kebab with friends. And very quickly, all meats followed. Bacon was the last one I cut out because I enjoyed it a lot, and I kept trying to make up excuses for why I should carry on eating it. But within about 6 or 8 weeks, it was gone as well. And that was over 10 years ago now, and I've never really looked back since.
Wow. So I guess was it kind of an ethical choice then that prompted you to go down the vegetarian route to start with, or like properly?
Yeah, absolutely. It was really brought on by me thinking about the terrible condition that they must have kept in, how little space each animal must have had, how pumped full of who knows what kind of hormones and antibiotics and so on to keep them alive in such terrible conditions, and also growing so fast as well, so they basically have more meat on them. Then after that, it kind of developed a little bit more. The more I thought about it, the more it came to an ethical point of view from animals as well. I started to think, maybe if I only buy meat from, like a really good source where the animals are kept inside in these big open pastures, they have great lives. Even then, I felt like, and this was something actually that my wife Kat pointed out to me at the time, that even if an animal was kept in the greatest of conditions and had a great life, then the farmer brings it along one day, and let's say it's a cow. This cow's trusted the farmer's entire life, brings it along, and it has a bolt put through its head, and it's kind of the ultimate betrayal at the end. This I don't understand. I can't bring myself to do this or to pay anybody to do it, which is essentially what the meat industry is. I'm paying somebody else to kill the animals and package them up for me, and it's something that I want no part of.
Fair enough, and I think that's very reasonable. I guess it's interesting to just hear how people come, but because what I've always found talking to people about vegetarian diets is that most people kind of need to find their own way to it, rather than, I guess, being forced into it and make this almost this journey of self-discovery. For some people, maybe it is an ethical thing. Other people, it might be a more health-related thing. And it certainly sounds like for you, it was this ethical moment that kind of transitioned you towards it. But I guess from what you've said now, there's more there's more reason for you to be vegetarian, so it's not just an ethical. So is there more from a health or exercise point of view or anything else that makes you want to stay vegetarian or follow a veggie diet?
Yeah, so first of all, I think you're absolutely completely right with this. You can't really force vegetarianism or veganism on anybody. If you do, it probably won't work. The people will feel under pressure or like they're being made to do something. Maybe it can work in the short term, but for it to be a long-term success, I think it doesn't work. I also think it's one of the reasons why vegans, unfortunately, have quite a kind of bad reputation in terms of foisting it upon other people, as they are often very kind of outspoken. And the thing is, I completely get where they're coming from. I think their beliefs are very good and very strong. But one of the bigger mistakes that, of course, this is not everyone, but the general kind of vegan community now has a reputation for trying to force themselves on other people. I think it could have been done better and more successfully. Thankfully, veganism is doing very well now, and it will, I think, continue to grow. But it could have been done better.
Hey, a quick break to say if you're interested in trying out the vegetarian diet, then you can download one of our free meal plans. We've got plans for weight loss, muscle building, and for general healthy living, and you can go to hurrythefoodup.com/try. That's TRY to download yours now and get started. So you've been vegetarian for a while now. Have you noticed there are any common misconceptions about vegetarian diets that you've encountered? And how would you address these based on your experience then over the last, 20 years when you first tried it in university and then trying it again, a slightly older, more mature approach to it where you weren't just trying to impress a girl?
So, yeah, I think one of the biggest misconceptions actually is that the vegetarian diet is very healthy. So just off the bat, there's been many times when I've said to people, or it sounds like I tell people I'm vegetarian. I try not to do that.
So when you walk into the party,
I'm a vegetarian. Yeah, exactly. What do you do? Well, I'm a vegetarian. No, but people have often commented straight away, "Oh, you want to be healthy?" Or, "Oh, okay." Whereas I don't think that the vegetarian diet, unless you get it right, is particularly healthy off the bat. The reason is that many people, including myself when I first tried it, move away from meat and they don't replace it adequately. So instead of meat, they just kind of gravitate towards more cheese, or they go to processed meals because they're easy, that happen to be vegetarian or perhaps vegan as well, or they copious amounts of bread, pasta, that kind of thing. So instead of having a very well-balanced diet, they actually have a kind of normal Western world diet, but without meat. And so, yeah, if you don't kind of plan it out carefully, then I don't think the diet is particularly healthy. But of course, this goes for any diet as well, which is why you have to get the planning part of it right.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. I think that's quite a big one, really, because I guess, as you say, lots of people think that the vegetarian diet is just inherently healthy. But if you're just eating cheesy stuff, high fat foods, or not replacing the protein content from that you would have lost from meat, that has repercussions in itself. So if someone wants to try a vegetarian diet, because you've highlighted some of those issues there, what tips would you give to someone who wants to transition to a vegetarian diet?
Yeah, so well, this is really what Hurry the Food Up is all about. And this is where we realize that people have the biggest problems and make the biggest mistakes, is that they're not replacing the meat. As you mentioned, you're not replacing the protein. And for so many reasons, I mean, you're a sports nutritionist, you know this in detail. But if you don't get that protein, you miss out on so much health, so much nutrition. And you really have to find a way to get those good levels of protein back in. So I think two main things is that you shouldn't just cut meat out from your meals. That's what I did the very first time when I tried to be vegetarian and didn't enjoy it. I'd eat basically the same meals, but I wouldn't have the sausages or the bacon or the steak on the side. And this led to a very boring diet, which was clearly lacking in nutrients at the time. So the way that we create our recipes now is with a protein first approach. Basically, any recipe that we decide that we want to make and come up with, we think about the protein source first. Is it going to come from lentils? Is it going to come from tofu? Is it going to come from chickpeas? Is it going to come from dairy? Is it going to come from eggs? And from there, we then work around it. So you're going to get your protein. you're going to basically replace the meat. And from there, then we do the add-ons, we do the different flavor pairings and so on. And that I find gives a far more balanced and, of course, much more interesting diet.
Okay, fab. And do you kind of linked with that really? So you mentioned not replacing, not cutting out meat immediately from your diet and kind of when you're transitioning. Do you think there are any other common mistakes that people would make when going for a veggie diet?
I think, it's turning to processed foods, or just really, eating kind of the same food that you did before, but without the meat. So I think a totally different way and a much better way to look at it would be to try a whole load of new foods. For some people, that's not always easy to do. After you get to a certain age, you get kind of entrenched in your comfort zone. You don't necessarily want to try new foods, or maybe it feels too daunting to cook new recipes, or you have a busy life, you have 8 kids and families, and you don't feel like you have time to try new recipes. But I think it's important to try at least a couple of new recipes, maybe a couple of new ingredients. Our recipes, we design them to be very quick, not to use crazy ingredients either. The idea is to really help you transition over easily, quickly, without too much stress, or hopefully without really any extra stress than you would normally have when cooking for yourself or for a family.
Because that could be quite a big problem for people, right? In that, as you say, you kind of reduce or take out the meat or want to replace it. And then there's almost this whole, it is almost a completely different diet, and you kind of have to open up yourself to different possibilities, different recipes, different ingredients. And I suppose that could be quite overwhelming. And you mentioned the hurry the food up ethos of making these kind of simpler recipes so it doesn't feel like that. Do you think there's any merit in kind of trying to just pick maybe like 1 or 2 nights a week where you try a recipe? Do you think it's worth kind of completely overhauling and trying a new recipe for every meal?
Yeah, really good point. No, I wouldn't recommend trying to do 7 new dinners every week, 7 new lunches, 7 new breakfasts. That's going to be completely overwhelming. In fact, what I would do is probably just pick 1 or 2 new recipes each week to start with, and see how they go. You're going to find some recipes that you don't like either. That's fine. You put them aside. You never cook them again. You'll also probably find some recipes that you really like, and you'll be happy to make them over and over. We have some recipes on repeat still that we first made 10 years ago when we were first creating our very first recipes for Hurry the Food Up. Some of them I loved so much, I still make them once every week, once every 2 weeks now. That's 10 years later. And I think it's important to find recipes like this because they're ones that you will get very good at making. You'll get very quick at it. You know exactly how to do it. You won't burn it. You won't undercook it. You won't forget the ingredients in the supermarket because you'll keep the staples at home. And you'll kind of always have these recipes that you really love to fall back on. I have a recipe, for example, that I can knock up in about 6 minutes for dinner. Everybody loves it. It's so easy. And it's Greek pitters, by the way. I can add a link to the podcast. It's so fast. And yeah, everybody loves this meal. We all sit around afterwards and say, that was good. And that's 10 years later,
Yeah. So I guess the kind of concept there of what you're saying then is you can have your staples, which you feel safe and comfortable with, and they might be your kind of fallbacks or the ones that you include regularly, which don't tax you. They don't make you feel worried or stressed. And then you have these other ones which you almost kind of try out. That's where you experiment. And if you like it, great. You record it in your book or in a spreadsheet. And then the ones you don't like, you kind of just discount them and say, you know what, that didn't really work for me. So I guess there's like an element of curiosity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, stay curious. Try some new recipes. I think before Hurry the Food Up, I had maybe never eaten chickpeas, if you can believe such a thing. I don't think I knew what an avocado was till I was about 20. So these things come up in life as you go on, and you find more things to try. Now I could cook chickpeas in 20 different ways, and they're fantastic. But yeah, it was something that I just kind of never come across before. So yeah, exactly. Stay curious. Try some new recipes. Like I said, just one or two a week. Um, Find the ones you love, and then kind of expand out from this. Then maybe say do 2 new dinner recipes in week 1. Try 2 new lunches in week 2. 2 new breakfasts in week 3. Something like that.
Nice. Okay, and then it's just that kind of gradual progression. So for the listeners out there, can you give me a few of your favorite recipes?
Yeah, so the Greek pitters, as we call them, absolutely. This is my fallback quick one. It's basically pitters. It's tomatoes, cucumber, some low fat, either feta cheese or salad cheese mixed together with a couple of herbs. And it's so tasty. Otherwise, tofu bolognese is a family favorite. This goes down really well. Of course, we've got that on the site as well. Omelets, we have various versions of omelets on the website. It's so easy. It's always very filling, very high in protein, and you can really use up whatever leftovers you have. Kind of any vegetable leftovers you have. Generally, you can fry up quickly with either a little bit of oil or a little bit of oil and water, so you're not getting too much oil, and you can throw it into an omelet, bit of sauce, and you have a very tasty recipe that kind of hits the spot, keeps you feeling full. If you're sporty or athletic, it's going to really help you hit your protein targets as well. We have a recipe that we call the lentil bake, which is basically lentils, cheese, and tomatoes with a few other things thrown in as well. But the recipe there, that's one that gets made probably once a week here as well. And finally, the tangy veggie wraps, which is probably my favorite recipe on our entire website. We've got about 400 recipes, and I think if I had to pick just one, it's probably that one.
This takes the crown.
Yeah, it's also one that you can pack and wrap it and take it for lunch and so on as well. There was actually a recipe where I was traveling to a concert in a different city with a friend who was a huge meat eater, was always trying to convince me to eat meat again. He saw it as some kind of personal challenge. And I gave him one of these, and he shut up very quickly. He said that he changed his mind, and could he have the recipe? So I took that as a big win as well. And in fact, since that day, he's been a bit of a convert. He eats far less meat these days, and often texts me and sends me pictures of his new vegetarian recipes. And again, this was done by me not trying to foist it on him, but rather he was challenging me. So I kind of said, well, have this then. And we took it from there.
If you're looking to try the vegetarian diet and you're not sure where to start, then we've got you covered. We have free meal plans available on our website for whatever your goal, whether that's weight loss, muscle gain and toning, or just generally healthy living. Head to hurrythefoodup.com/try. That's TRY to check them out and download your free plan and get started. Do you have any favorite go-to individual foods that you include regularly in your diet?
I think eggs is my main one, to be honest. I'm also very careful where I source my eggs from. I either try to get them from friends or buy ones where I can see where the companies get the eggs from, where the chickens are kept, the conditions they're kept in. You can look at the farms online and so on. Because I'm still borderline, I'm not a vegan, but I do consume less dairy than I used to, and I would like this trend to continue. And eggs is one thing that, at the moment, I think if the chickens are kept in the right conditions, eggs are fine. We'll see where my mindset takes me over the next few years for that one. But yeah, I think eggs. I eat eggs in various different ways and relatively often.
Okay. And so kind of interesting there, I want to pick up on that. So do you see your diet changing over the future?
Yeah. Basically, as I mentioned, I think slowing down on dairy even more would be one of the ways to change. Also trying to eat more fruit. This is one of my weaknesses. I just don't eat that much fruit. I'm pretty good with vegetables. I try to eat a couple, at least, servings of vegetables every single day, often more. But fruit, I don't know why. So I would definitely be planning to eat more fruit. And who knows in the future? Perhaps veganism is calling. That is something that I'm definitely interested in. Like I said, I've kind of moved in that direction slowly over the years as well. When we've made recipes, we've always tested vegan versions wherever possible. We leave notes for vegan versions that have worked. We incorporate feedback from other readers as well. Just yesterday, one of our readers wrote to us and said that they'd made one of our recipes, our high-protein banana bread, and they'd actually replaced the yogurt with an almond milk, and it had worked perfectly. So this is really good to know. And it's the kind of thing, if I can take out a couple of spoons of yogurt, for example, from something and have almond milk in there, then so be it. That's fantastic. Less dairy is definitely a winner in my book.
Okay. And do you have any particular goals in terms of your health, fitness, anything like that over the coming years?
Well, in June, to celebrate my turning 40, I'm planning to go, I would say running, but it's going to be more like hiking up Mont Blanc. That's a big mountain in the middle of Europe, for anybody that doesn't know. And I'm rather excited about that. So I've been training relatively hard for that over the last few months. I've also been trying to lose a few kilos for that. Not because I particularly felt like I needed to, but I thought it would help me to get up the mountain a bit better if I was a few kilos lighter. So I've been focusing on this over the last few weeks to drop a few kilos.
Awesome. So you're aiming to lose weight then, and still over the next couple of weeks. Are you doing anything particularly to help you lose weight? So you're following any plans, any schedules for exercise?
Yeah. So, I mean, as you know, as a nutritionist, there are many ways to lose weight, but it really always boils down to calories in versus calories out. I mean, in the most simple terms, that's really what it is. You can go keto, you can go intermittent fasting. When I first lost weight back when I was 18, 19, I did the Atkins diet, and which is basically the forerunner of keto. And it worked, absolutely, but it just wasn't sustainable. I mean, you can't really live your life without carbs. What a horrible thought,
I mean, that's just sad, isn't it?
Yeah. And I don't think it's particularly healthy. I think there's been enough studies in the sporting world that if you want to have athletic success as well, then you're going to need carbs. So what I've been doing is I have a good idea of how many calories are in particular meals. So I follow recipes from Hurry the Food Up. Basically, everything I eat is from Hurry the Food Up, along with a couple of staple recipes that I haven't yet put up onto the website. But virtually everything I eat can be found on our website. And I have a very good idea in mind of how many calories a particular meal is, and as well as all my snacks and so on. I do not calorie count. But I do know intrinsically now, after kind of 10 years of doing this, how many calories are in a meal. And I know roughly how many calories I need per day to be losing weight on a weekly basis. It changes a little bit because I'm training quite hard at the moment, so I've had to adjust and kind of a bit of trial and error. For example, I started to drop weight a little bit too quickly, actually. And I think that was because my training had really upped and I was eating the kind of the normal amount of food to lose weight, but with much harder training involved, it started to happen too quickly. It can be quite a complicated process to get right if you don't know the calories per meal that you're eating, and a lot of people don't.
Right. Yeah. It makes it that much harder, doesn't it? And I guess you either have to calorie count or, nice plug, you use our recipes, which have the calories laid out for you and with the meal plans.
Yeah. I mean, in all seriousness, yeah, of course. That's the way that the meal plans are made. They're kind of they'll work for you. If you tell us roughly how old you are, your size, your current size, how much activity you do, and what kind of job you have, we can basically fit a meal plan to you that is going to help you lose weight week in, week out. And that's kind of the beauty of it, that you don't have to worry, of course, about the calories and about everything else involved.
Makes it a lot simpler. Now, there was something you said there which I want to just go back on, because people listening might have been, I guess, wondering a little bit, because you mentioned that you started losing weight a little too quickly. So what do you mean by that? And why was this an issue?
So under your advice, I've been trying to lose roughly half a kilo, so about 1 pound per week. My goal was over an 8-week period to lose 4 kilos, or about 8.8 pounds, roughly. The idea behind this is that it's the optimal amount, or the optimal rate to lose weight at. So I'm losing a better ratio of fat and holding on to as much muscle as possible. Over the last couple of years, I put in quite a lot of effort into building muscle in the gym, training hard, getting bigger and stronger. And I didn't want all of this to kind of melt away, especially as I've turned over the last few months to more cardio-based training to give me a better kind of engine to get up the mountain. To go back to your question, I started to lose weight far more rapidly, more like kind of a kilo per week, perhaps even a bit more at one point. So I kind of had to dial it back. I had to look at what I was eating, work out what I could add back in to my diet to bring it back down to about half a kilo per week.
And so was it as simple as essentially just adding a bit more food into your diet every day?
Yep, no, that's exactly what it was. I chose one more snack every single day, and that did stabilize. At one point, my training went up even more, so I started adding in a full meal instead of a snack. The last week or so has been very busy, so I've come back down to just the snack again. And so far, so good.
If you want help following a vegetarian diet, then you can check out our free vegetarian meal plans at hurrythefoodup.com/try. That's TRY. And when you've been trying to lose weight, have you struggled with cravings?
Yeah, so yes, but generally only in the first couple of days. So what I found, over the years, actually, I've invested a lot of time and effort into learning how we lose weight and how we gain weight. So in Germany, for example, with a private health insurance, which I have as I'm self-employed, you actually get a cheaper health insurance if your BMI is lower, your body mass index. So basically, if you're slimmer, you get cheaper health insurance, and I have to be reassessed every couple of years. So when this comes along, I always drop down weight for a couple of months beforehand, so I get slimmer and slimmer, and get cheaper health insurance. Then when it comes to training, when I'm training hard and I want to be bigger and stronger, I eat more, and it really fascinates me. And so I go through phases where I go up and down in weight, and I've found when I'm doing weight loss, there are some pretty significant cravings in the first 2, 3, 4, 5 days. They settle down very quickly once you kind of get into the habit, like with most habits. It's especially sugary cravings. Is probably also linked, I would imagine, to when you want to lose weight, giving up alcohol is a very good idea, or at least cutting down massively on it. And so I think getting rid of kind of all the sweet foods, the temptations, or the things you would normally like. If you enjoy a glass of wine or a cold beer in the evening, getting rid of this as well. And so these cravings kind of come along. I've got a couple of tips for cravings as well, if you want to hear them.
Please do, yeah.
So first of all, it's important to find snacks that you like and have them ready in the house, because these cravings can be very powerful. And if you have foods, let's just, for the sake of things, call them unhealthy foods, crisps or chips, chocolate bars, these kind of things, and you keep them in the house anyway, there's a very good chance that when these cravings strike, it's been a long day, maybe you're stressed, maybe you're worried, and you get hit by all these cravings at the same time, you're probably going to go and have them, to be honest. So if they're in the house, you're probably going to eat them. So that's already a danger. So either get rid of them first, give them to somebody else, or I don't know, lock them in a cupboard and throw away the key, whatever you need to do. And yeah, have something to replace them with. It could be something as simple. So my favorite craving snack is actually an apple chopped into pieces with a little bit of peanut butter on it. I find this very satisfying, very filling, and it does just enough to take the kind of sugary edge off things for me.
I'm laughing here just because I'm thinking, for me, that would probably be one of the worst possible snacks. And I think that's just because I absolutely love peanut butter. So I would probably chop each bit of apple up and then just put like a mountain of peanut butter on, which probably wouldn't be that helpful then for a weight loss snack.
Yeah, very enjoyable, no doubt. But yeah, you do have to be a bit careful with the peanut butter. It does need to be like relatively thinly spread on there. Otherwise, it will add up again as well. Yeah. Another great snack actually is also the very humble protein shake. I think this is one that's kind of overlooked as a snack, but it is great. It's filling. It's got that protein kick. Perhaps you would like to tell us a little bit more about the idea of why protein is so helpful in weight loss. This is obviously your forte, but it's great, and it's something that I would definitely recommend.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, the kind of core concept, and actually, I suppose that's the ethos behind a lot of the Hurry the Food Up recipes and why we put protein there is because protein is incredibly satiating. So by that I mean, when you consume protein, your body understands and knows that it has eaten protein, and it starts kicking off a load of processes, plays with the hormonal aspects and something called cholecystokinin. Maybe it's for another episode, but it's essentially a very satiating nutrient. So having a lot of that does help with hunger, which is why having high protein snacks is usually a good go-to, because it's one of the few things which are close enough to witchcraft without being actual magic if you're trying to lose weight.
Yeah, I can only agree. Honestly, the more I learned about protein over the years, the more I started to put protein first with every meal, the better I felt. And without a doubt, it takes away the hunger. That's the thing that I noticed before I really thought about the protein side of things when I was trying to lose weight. You just have this kind of, even if it wasn't constant hunger pangs, you'd have this kind of general dissatisfied feeling, or there's kind of like always a small hole or something that's unfulfilled in your belly, whereas protein kind of gets rid of this. Sorry.
And just because I want to just clarify for people listening, so when you say you kind of put protein first, I guess I'm right in still saying that you still consider the rest of your diet, like carbohydrates, fats, healthy fats, vegetables, those are all still important?
Yeah, absolutely. They're at least as important. Yeah, you've got to get your healthy veggies in there and everything else. I guess the way I think of it is that when most people are making a meal, they think, okay, tonight I'm going to have chicken curry, for example. It's kind of like chicken is the first thing that comes out, and the sauces, the flavorings that come along with the curry, it's just kind of, it's all an add-on. Maybe some people are going to have it with peas in there. Maybe some people are going to have a bit of potato. Some people will have carrots or cauliflower. But curry will be the focus. And I think you just have to, instead of saying then, look, I'm going to make a vegetable curry, which doesn't have much protein really, okay, there's a small amount of protein in your peas and your carrots and so on, but not really enough to write home about. So you need to think about a different way. How are you going to get this protein? How are you going to have a curry that's going to be kind of protein first? For me, an easy one with curry is tofu. I love it in there. I think it's great. It takes on the flavor of the curry very nicely, and it's a great protein source. Otherwise, something like an Indian cheese like paneer is a great replacement in curry as well. Very, very tasty there.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. So as a wrap up, what I want to just ask, so you've had quite a lot of experience then with a vegetarian diet over the years, partly from your own personal experience and then from running Hurry the Food Up as well, and interaction with all of our members. What's the one thing you wish everyone knew about adopting a vegetarian diet?
So, I think it's as simple as don't just cut out meat. So expand your diet and find good meat replacements. So, as I mentioned, if you're going to make a curry or you're going to make yourself a wrap or tacos or something, instead of just taking out the meat and just having the vegetables with it, think, well, what could I put in here instead of the meat? I mean, it could be eggs, it could be tofu, it could be chickpeas, it could be lentils, it could be a type of cheese. There's so many options out there. We can also put more links in to the podcast notes to help people find their way around and find ideas. And yeah, it would be to find these replacements. I would also say, don't be afraid to use a meat replacement every now and then. You know, if you're really craving a burger and you think you're going to give in and go and eat meat, well, have a veggie burger then. You know, like one of the ones that you can buy in the shop. Don't make a habit out of it and don't come to rely on these. But you know, if you're really craving something like that, every now and then do it. In the long run, satisfying a craving like this and enjoying your food life so you don't feel like you're missing out all the time will put you in a much better stead in the long term.
Nice. And if I could sum up then from what you mentioned about putting, not just taking out meat and kind of putting protein first and using that, I guess really what you're saying at the core of it there is learn a bit more about the food that you're eating and how the vegetarian diet can be used to be healthy, get enough protein. So it's not specifically saying you must have protein, although that kind of is what we want you to. It's exploring what foods are available to a vegetarian and learning how you can incorporate those into dishes.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think it would be good advice really for everybody in the world, because let's face it, in the Western world, many of our diets are not very healthy. We get into the very kind of the processed type of food. We get quite kind of narrow-minded. We focus on a few recipes that we know, and we often don't eat enough vegetables. We don't know enough of other alternative foods out there, and there's so much good stuff. So I think anybody, vegetarian, omnivore, vegan, anything in between, expand your horizons, try new meals, find ones that you like. What you said earlier, stay curious, I think is a great way of thinking about it. There's a lot of great food out there, and yeah, it's yours for the taking.
Nice. Thank you so much for your time, Dave. Before we go, where can people find out more about you and who you represent?
Well, it's my pleasure to be here. I've been excited about this. And I would love more people to come and see us at hurrythefoodup.com. I would love any listeners, if they haven't already, to sign up to our newsletter. That's where I send out a couple of emails every week with either new recipes or interesting vegetarian news or perhaps new ideas or concepts that we've been talking about. You could also try one of our meal plans if you want to. And that's at hurrythefoodup.com/try. And you can test out any meal plans you like. It could be gluten-free. It could be a high-protein meal plan. Whatever it is that you are looking for, we've probably got it on the website.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Dave.
All right, James. Thanks too. See you soon.
If you found today's podcast episode interesting or useful, we would really appreciate it if you gave it a quick review on whatever platform you're listening on. It will only take a moment, but it will help the podcast spread to more like-minded people